this in the middle, I want to focus a little bit on this because this is always, I think, the hardest part. And I've got some video examples that explain everything I've talked about to this point. This in the moment part. This, I think, is the part that is very hard because it's so different from the way that all of us were raised. It's so different from the way that we have always done things. And we're basically having to learn a new language. So let me ask you all this as a collective group. How many of you all had parents then that were really like focused on your heart? They were like right brain to right brain. And when you were upset, they would be like, sweetheart, just tell me you're mad. I can handle it. And they would come to you and they would say, I just want to know how you're doing. I just want to check in with your heart. How many of you all had that kind of parent? Come on, there's got to be a few. Raise your hands really high because the rest of us were jealous. The rest of us, you know what we had? We had the parent that said, I'll give you something to cry about. Right? So our parents met us in the left brain. They gave us consequences. They gave us sequential thinking. They gave us they tried to pull the emotional piece on us, but it was all from a very logical standpoint. They gave us choices. And so I'm asking you all now to change how we do this when we interact with our kids, especially in that middle zone, in that moment of how then do you still hold boundaries collectively and have this nice structure, but you do it more from a right brain, heart perspective. So this is so much about getting in that place of empathy. So much of what our abilities go through, you can't fix. There's just no fixing that. And I think it actually is part of their journey as well. Their journey is to empower them to find their way out of it. And so it's about just creating that emotional space. What you see in that little cartoon is all about just allowing him or whatever character that is, him or her, to be upset, just to feel. So much of this is giving our kids permission to feel. They have to find their way out of it, and they will. And this is where I have worked in this field of trauma for so many years, and I have seen students be able to come out of this as long as they are given the support and the resources that they need, that they are able to find their way. In fact, so many of them find solutions that we wouldn't even know if we just sit back and ask them about that. So I love the last couple lines in here. She says, rarely can a response make something better. What makes things better is connection. So the next time that you move into that place to say, well, at least I want you to stop yourself. I want you to go, tell me more, or let me hear more. Let me just listen to what's going on. It's about absorbing that kind of stress that our kids are holding and just letting them know, you know what? You are worthy. You are okay. You are part of this school, and I am so glad that you are part of this class family and this school, and you are an important part of everything that we do here, whether or not he's behaving or not. So when we connect, it is, again, right brain to right brain. What does that mean? That means that we have to slow down. Actually, a teacher just came up to me and told me that he does Tai Chi with his third graders. I love that because it's getting them to slow down. We have to slow down. A lot of our kids, their auditory processing skills are going to be very much compromised. Again, you think about the family that Andy grows up in and the conversations they have all day long, and you think about the Billy family that we saw the very first video where there's no conversation going on. It's going to affect the rate of speed that children are able to focus and be able to process language. So many of our kids, when they're sitting there and you say, okay, take out your piece of paper, and Billy just sits there and everyone else is getting the piece of paper out, and you think, oh, he's just being defiant. You know what's happening? The processing is just a little bit slower. And he's thinking, okay, get out the piece of paper, and everyone's got theirs out already, and then he looks like he's lagging behind, then he feels like he's stupid, and all of a sudden he acts out. So there's a lot of testing that goes on with a lot of our kids. If there's any way to check out their auditory processing skills, that is another one to really think about. It's about learning the art of listening. And when kids are in that moment, I want you to explore with them. Like, oh, what happened next? What happened then? Oh, well, how did that feel? Like, you don't have to be a therapist. It doesn't take a mental health degree to be able to connect with kids. It's just simply saying, all right, let me just take a moment here to be able to check in with Billy. And so I'm just going to leave you with this list of words and not just read them out verbatim, but these are the things it takes to be able to right brain to right brain. Again, get out of that logic, that giving choices in the moment. Again, this is when we're talking about really in that moment. Because if you go into that kind of thinking, you're going to have an explosion. These are the ways to really step back and say, let me just check in with Billy here. Does it take longer? Yes. But you know what? Sometimes not. Because if you have an explosion and that child then disrupts the entire classroom, how do the other students feel? They're all stressed out as well, especially when you have lots of Billies in the classroom, because one Billy can unravel all the other Billies within a millisecond. Have you all seen that? So it feels like it takes more time, but you will be preserving the regulation of your class as well.